Welcome back to VHS Crazy, the hip new show where I tell you about VHS tapes I've got lying around. Today's episode deals with a movie that many of you may not have heard of. I sure as heck didn't hear of it before I got it. Gothika with Halle Berry. And, I don't know. It's a thing.
Put a little weekend in your week. Rent a video.
2000s were a weird decade. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I lived through them, albeit very young. But if any of you are out there, like, the 2000s were a weird decade, especially for movies. You have this post-2000 nihilism, this millennium boom, and you're not quite self-conscious enough to become the 2010s. You're the 2000s. Now, before Christopher Nolan got everything all dark and gritty with The Dark Knight, and before Marvel opens everything up with stage one of their big Marvel plan, and before Keanu Reeves wows the world in John Wick, you got movies like this one. They're not 90s movies, they're not modern movies, they exist in a weird kind of 2000s limbo. This is from 2003, 2 years after 9/11, and it's got Halle Berry, Robert Downey Jr., and Penelope Cruz. I don't know exactly how famous Robert Downey Jr. was in. When he was in this, gosh darn, he's pretty hot, I gotta say. But, I don't know, he doesn't look that much younger. He hasn't really aged at all in the last 18 years, which is kind of disturbing, but, I don't know, he's in this, and Halle Berry's in it. So, how do I say this? The plot is kind of novel. I haven't seen a premise like this. And depending on which way you look at it, it's either offensive to the mentally ill or very, it could be said to be kind of advocating for them. And holy shit, I'm looking at the back cover and I just realized that this is produced by Robert Zemeckis. Who would have thought?
Terrifying, and I always remember those days.
At any rate, this movie does have some kind of outdated depictions of the mentally ill. You've got Penelope Cruz, this crazy, screaming, babbling lunatic in a straitjacket. But, it's a horror movie, what are you gonna do? Admittedly, Penelope Cruz's portrayal is okay. She's an okay actress. I liked her in Vanilla Sky. She's generally okay in everything she's in. Now, Halle Berry, of course, as everyone knows, was in the awful Catwoman reboot, where she's not Michelle Pfeiffer and she's not Julie Newmar. She's the 2000s Catwoman, and it failed miserably the same way Daredevil and Elektra failed miserably in that weird early Marvel period. Frickin' X-Men. Origins, Wolverine. I remember seeing that. Fresh out of Redbox, nostalgia. But so, the first time I saw this, it was in 2012 or something. I was a nihilistic 10-year-old, and I kind of discounted this movie as sleazy garbage. But upon a repeat viewing, I've come to the conclusion that it's actually a pretty well put together horror film, all things considered. Maybe it's the nostalgia, maybe these sort of movies kind of mellow with age. Maybe when X-Men Origins Wolverine came out, I thought it was a pile of trash, and maybe now that the only thing coming out is Avengers Endgame, I might look back on it and be like, whoa, that was some game-changing stuff compared to WandaVision. But that said, this is a pretty okay horror movie. All things considered, it does what it sets out to do. It is very 2000s. I would say this is probably the most 2000s horror movie of all time. It has that weird thing in the 2000s. It was a really weird trend some filmmakers fell into for some time, where you have this just bizarre color palette. You have all these movies that are just entirely green or entirely blue. I think it starts with The Matrix and it just kind of goes from there, you know. Like The Matrix is just frickin' lime all the way. Now this movie has just so many blues and grays. It's really weird in that regard. But a lot of 2000s movies do that. I'll never understand the trend. It's flippin' bizarre, but... And the other thing I remember upon my initial viewing when I was like 12 is that the special effects were really fake and they're done with CGI. And I remember them as being like really lame, and there being these really garbage sequences of like, I don't know, but upon rewatching it, I've realized that it's actually kind of okay. It's like, the fire effects look really fake. They're obviously CGI. I'm not gonna lie, the fire effects aren't the best. But there's this one sequence where like Halle Berry takes like a shower with all the other inmates in the asylum, and their faces just turn so grotesque, and I still can't tell how that effect was accomplished. I don't think CGI was advanced enough in 2003 for them to use CGI to make them look all this grotesque. I think they put waterproof makeup on them. And some of the shots, like where Halle Berry experiences a vertical blur, are just like really cool. Like there's some cool perspectives in here. There's some cool, like the shot composition is very well put together, even if the effects aren't so hot. There's a lot of practical stuff, which I can admire. The set design is really okay. And I don't know, it's just kind of, I don't know, it does what it tries to do. Is it the best horror movie of all time? No. Is it even a competent horror movie or a good horror movie or the kind of thing, you know, that people enjoy? No. But it is very niche and it is very historically significant. If you're wondering what a movie was like in 2003, this is the movie for you. This is the definitive 2003 schlocky horror film, and I don't know how Robert Zemeckis produced this, you know, but I guess so. It's from a company I assume is now defunct called Dark Castle Entertainment, with a very cheesy logo with this awful looking CGI gargoyle. But, you know, it's got Robert Downey Jr. before he was Iron Man, before his big break, before he was a household name, one of the highest grossing stars in cinema, and that's very interesting. And, of course, it's got Halle Berry, who's just a really good actress, like, all things considered. Like, sure, the Catwoman movie she did was bad, but, you know, this is actually kind of good. It's actually, like, I see it as like these really good actors, like bringing their all to the roles, and they just happen to exist in this bizarre cartoon universe where everything is cheesy and overdone, and you know, you don't feel like it's their fault. You feel like they're legitimately trying to make a good, solid, well-paced, well-crafted movie.
Doug is dead. Doug is dead. Doug is dead. Doug is dead.
And, you know, there's just, you can't tell it's the 2003, there's some scenes with the computer and the internet, you've got this, you know, pre-Facebook, pre-YouTube tattoo webpage, it's just very this was 1 year after I was born, so I gotta say this is the movie you'll want to watch if you're, I don't know, in for, like, it's not that scary. I wasn't scared by this movie the first time I watched it or the second time. It tries really hard to be scary with this lightning font and all these psychotic effects and all this, but it's not really scary. It's more kind of a very internal character study. And not only that, it tries to be kind of a feminist horror movie, which is interesting. I don't know. It's an okay movie. It is what the cover makes it look like, but there's a little more under the surface. So don't discount this movie as it's got Robert Downey Jr. If you like Iron Man, if you like Sherlock Holmes, if you like Robert Downey Jr., you'll like this. His character's pretty good. The delivery is okay, and Halle Berry's pretty good. And it's directed by Matthew Kasovitz. So, I don't know. And Roger Ebert says he cherished this movie in all of its lurid glory. How this movie managed to get a review from Roger Ebert, I don't know. I don't know if Halle Berry and Robert Downey Jr. and Penelope Cruz were big names when this came out. I assume they were. I mean, big names. It's produced by flippin' Robert Zemeckis. But it just has all the qualifiers of this trashy B movie, but it's actually pretty good. Like, I thought I wasn't gonna enjoy watching this again, but it was actually a pretty fun romp into the unknown, a pretty fun descent into madness, so I gotta say it's an okay movie. 3.5 stars out of 5.
Are you okay?
It's not the best in the collection, but if you want a nice late night watch, then pick up a copy of Gothika and give it a try, give it a chance. You might not enjoy it. This is just me. This is one of those rare, very rare cases where I can say that this is only my opinion. Most movies, I don't feel like that. Most movies I can discount as utter garbage or praise as high art, but this is one of those movies that if you don't enjoy it, that's perfectly understandable. If this isn't for you, sure, go watch Suspiria or something good. But, there's something to be admired about this absolute schlock of a movie. It is what it is. It's 2003 in film format. If you don't like it, then I don't know. You were either too early or too late. But for me, I was born 2002. This kind of movie strikes a chord with me. I don't know. But yeah, it's an okay movie. If you like Halle Berry, if you like Robert Downey Jr., if you like Penelope Cruz, then go ahead and watch it. And if you want to support some independent comics, then write to Nicholas Cicada, 1424 Columbine Street, number 1, Denver, Colorado 80206, to support more reviews like this in the future. That said, I'll be seeing you in the next one. This series is going to be a heck of a lot of fun. We got some good stuff on the way.